Hi guys. So this week the Carlton website put out a honouring of the past video for Brendan Fevola, and I thought to myself I had to do a video about Fev. Now I look back on the whole Brendan Fevola experience with a little bit of disappointment because it was the story that ended far too early. He was such a revered figure around the football club. He really embodied the Carlton spirit in a sense, and he just had this ability to put, bums on seats, and he put it. It was a great showman. It was a great forward. He had this ability to be able to kick set shots from outside 50, and you had this confidence in him that he'd be able to do it. And there really hasn't been anyone, like him in the league since he left. I mean, we do have a lot of great forwards in the league, but no one's really encapsulated the whole persona that Fev did. And I mean, one of the most common thoughts and quotes is that he just was in the league 10 years too late. So it is a bit of a shame, but when you think about it, I'd rather, feel the disappointment that we do with Fev than what we do with James Hurd if we're Essendon supporters. So that's that. But what I want to do today is I want to go through my top 5 favourite Brendan Fevola moments. And now obviously he's got so many more memories than just these 5, but these are the 5 that really stick out to me that I can remember really clearly. The first one was the Millennium game against Collingwood. On the stroke of year 2000, that was really the first time that I remember really paying attention to him, and he really burst onto the scene with the club. So that would be my 5th. My 4th would be, I know we lost this game, but it was round 6, 2009, when he hit the post to almost beat Hawthorn. Now I remember being at that game. I was sitting up on level 3, right near the top, behind the goals where he actually hit the post. And I remember when he first kicked it, most of the fans thought he kicked a goal, and so I remember this feeling of excitement and joy and energy coming through my body, only for it to just be controlled and subdued. So I remember that very, very clearly, and that was, even though we lost that game, the build up to almost beating Hawthorn that year was really, really cool. The next one, it wasn't really a game, but it was the year. So 2008, we beat Collingwood twice. Now I was in year 12 that year, and I was very much known as a loudmouth Carlton supporter, and obviously Chris Judd had just come to the club, and there was a lot of excitement generating from me, and we beat Collingwood twice that year. And I remember particularly the round 15 game that I was at that game, and he kicked 4 goals in the last quarter. And I mean, what better way? We didn't do anything special that year in terms of making a deep run at the finals or anything like that, but I just remember how important it was to beat Collingwood twice that year, and he did some really magical things in those big games, and I think it's another reason why we love him so much. He stood up in those big games that maybe people from outside the club would say they're just other games, but the Collingwood, the Essendon, the Richmond games, he always found a way to get up from, especially at the MCG. So 2008 is my 3rd favourite memory of Fev. My next one is round 11, 2004, the infamous comeback and the infamous goal after the siren against Adelaide on the boundary line. He still had the dreadlocks there and the really funky hair. So I remember that. I was watching it on TV, and I remember that very clearly. And I think that, the Millennium game sort of put him on the radar, but for me personally, that 2004 game against Adelaide really, especially at that time at the club, it was a very dark time. I remember just clinging on to him from there, and him really becoming, one of my favourite players. And my favourite memory of Brendan Fevola as a Carlton supporter would have to be round 3, 2007 against Essendon, the infamous comeback. The marks, the goals, just torching Dustin Fletcher, and it just tormented them. And I speak to some of my best friends who are Essendon supporters, and they talk about Fev in such a way that makes me happy, and I'm sure you all have the same sentiment in terms of when you talk about Fevola to your Essendon supporter friends, although I hope you don't have too many of them. But yeah, that game was obviously incredible for obvious reasons. Massive comeback against the scum. And so those are my top 5 Brendan Fevola moments. Tell me what yours are.